Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and I want to thank you for all the work that you've done and your staff for putting this bill together. I also want to thank the ranking member also for his work and his staff for all to put this together. I think we agree on most of the things on Homeland, but there are some disagreements, and I can understand that, and hopefully in conference we'll all work it out. I want to thank the chairwoman, Rosa DeLauro, and her staff, and of course the ranking member, Ms. Granger from Texas also. I want to say thank you for working with me on some of my priorities, Madam Chair, rescinding the $2.06 billion from the border barrier construction, authorizing up to $100 million for mitigation purposes, because some of the sensitive areas were affected. The $655 million for construction and modernization of land ports of entry facilities, the $132 million for border security technology is very important for us. The $9 million for the border processing coordinating folks, and these are folks that will do the assisting and processing and carrying and transportation of migrant folks instead of letting our men and women in green and blue do this work. The $5 million for retention bonuses to make sure that we keep our men and women in green and blue. The radios that they need, I want to say thank you. The humanitarian aid, there was an increase of $10 million over what we did last year, so it's $140 million. This is so key for our NGOs and our border communities. The $170 million for joint migrant processing centers, that is key to make sure that we have a one-stop center area. The humanitarian response operating plan, because we need to plan for this surges. We've seen this in 2014, 2019, and of course now. The millions of dollars to combat human smuggling, to make sure that the Homeland HSI investigation, capacity, undercover activities, human trafficking, child exploitation, all that work is done. And I want to thank you all for that. I do want to say something. I do associate myself with all my colleagues on migrants and caring for the migrants, but let me give you another perspective, and that is I live at the border. I don't just go and visit the border, so I live there. I do want to say something on behalf of the border communities, and I do want to say something on behalf of the men and women in green and blue ICE agents that work there. I know them. I go to church with them. I see them at our stores and other places. Our kids go to school. And I do want to say that our men and women in green especially, and OFO also, are having a hard time. They're having a very difficult time because of the large numbers. So we need to just give them more than just a pat. We need to give them the monies. We need to give them the resources. We need to make sure that we support them. Also, on the border communities, you know, if you live in Hawaii or in New York or somewhere else, LA, it's a little different from our border communities. We're facing something that's a very difficult, and this is why I'm hoping that this bill will help. But let me just give you some numbers. For example, last week or a couple of weeks ago, just in the lower Rio Grande Valley, we had over 15,800 people that were apprehended. This is only the people that got apprehended. Last week, we had over 16,000 people. That means that you get 2,600, 2,200 people coming in every single day. Now, what happens to those individuals? If you unaccompanied kids, we know they go through Health and Human Services. If you're single adults under Title 42, you're going to be returned. Family units are being released. Now, I say this not tongue-in-cheek, but if you support all this and if you have a place in your hometown, we'll be happy to send them directly from the lower Rio Grande. And I say this because in my hometown paper just this weekend, we had people just saying, hold off the migrants from coming to Laredo, Texas. Because what we're seeing is you're seeing medically underserved communities that are taking COVID-positive subjects in our area, and our hospitals are being overloaded. In fact, our health director, Dr. Trevino, the mayor of Laredo, they basically said, don't send us any more buses from the valley, because every day they're sending buses, about 250 to 350 people. The NGOs can't handle them. They were quarantined because of the COVID-19. They're getting large numbers. And basically, yesterday we had an emergency call with CBP here in DC and the local folks, and they agreed to suspend the buses from coming from the valley to Laredo because we're overloaded with COVID-19 cases of this subject. So I associate myself with the migrants that care that y'all mentioned, but I want you to understand the men and women in green, the men and women in blue, the ICE officers, they need help. And our border communities are being strained at this time. And I say this because, again, this is what's happening in Laredo and other, Del Rio also. Tony Gonzalez can say, I think they stopped taking some of the kids. So I ask you all to please consider border communities and the men and women in green down at the border. And with that, I say, Madam Chair, thank you for the wonderful work. I look forward to working with you on this very important bill.
Ms. Underwood.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank you and Ranking Member Granger, as well as Chairwoman Roybal-Allard, Ranking Member Fleischman, and the